Hello, hello. You're very welcome, each and everyone, to this, the first AVODA online event. We are very, very excited to have you in this event titled Becoming a Responsible Mentee. Becoming a Responsible Mentee. Thank you very much, someone from Magara. Thank you very much from Tororo. Thank you very much from wherever you are. We are very, very, very excited to have you in the event. And we are glad that many, many Ugandans are taking this more seriously to grow themselves, not just to grow themselves, but to grow the people around them, to mentor and be mentored. At this point, I'll ask the president of AVODA Group, Jun Shiomitsu, to please step in. You're very welcome, Jun.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Joshua, for that very kind introduction. My name is Jun, and I'm Japanese. I come from Tokyo, but they say you are what you eat. And I've been in Uganda for almost 5 years, perhaps even more. So I am Ugandan. I am eating Ugandan food every day. And my favorite has to be perhaps the katogo with some katunkuma on top. So yes, I eat Ugandan food and I have become Ugandan over the past 5 years. So that's one thing I hope I will be able to share with everybody in this call. But the other thing is, I think we share a common passion for business and the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so that is something that I have to tell you just warms my heart every time that I come to Uganda, because I come from a country where Christianity is only 0.1% of the population. 0.1%. That means if you have 1,000 people in the room, only one is Christian. As opposed to Uganda, where if you get 1,000 people in the room, 860 would be Christian. And so as someone who believes and loves our Lord Jesus Christ, it gives me a lot of joy to come to Uganda and to talk to people, to engage with people here. But I haven't always been in Uganda. I know I look like I'm 25, but I'm actually 40. I just made 40 this January. And a lot of that life was spent in Japan and in Europe and the United Kingdom, initially as a banker. And so that is kind of, you can tell where the background of AVODA comes from. It comes from a very high passion for the gospel and using the business world or using business as an international language to spread the gospel. Because I really think that business is one language that everybody in the world speaks. Everybody speaks. Business touches every aspect of our life as well, doesn't it? If you go and buy airtime at your nearest Airtel shop, that's business. Everybody does that. Or if you're trying to sell your land, or if you're buying a ticket or buying your fare into a matatu, that is all business. Everybody speaks the business language. And it is one language, I firmly believe, that the gospel has not yet fully been shared to its maximum capacity. And that is what made me passionate about the business world. But also, AVODA comes from an investment banking background. We are a gospel-centered kingdom building institute, but we are also a very serious institute in that we deal with money and investment, and we want to make a very realistic opportunity for entrepreneurs in Uganda, the Christian entrepreneurs, excuse me, in Uganda, to have a real shot at creating businesses that build the kingdom of God. And a lot of people had to ask me, why Uganda? Why Africa? You know, you come from Japan, you worked in the UK. Why Uganda? It's so far. But you know what? It's not. It's not that far. I feel it's getting closer every time I get on the plane to go from Japan or the United States to Uganda. It gets closer every time. You just get on the plane and you get off, right? The reason, though, that I really wanted to start AVODA in Uganda is because of AVODA's vision. What is AVODA's vision? AVODA's vision is the Great Commission itself, to go and make disciples of all nations for Jesus Christ. And what better tool with which to do that than the world of business, the word of business, the language of business. And so I was thinking, okay, I have to go. Jesus's last words before he went to heaven and he ascended to the right hand of the Father, his last words were, go to all nations. I was like, oh my goodness, how could I possibly in one short lifetime go to all nations to preach the gospel? And what language would I use? Well, ladies and gentlemen, AVODA has a vision that is precisely based on that. Africa is where all nations will be going to in this generation or the next. And think about it. Jesus says, go to all nations, right? We can't do that. So we should go to where all nations are going to. And to me, in my mind, from all my experience in investment banking, I think that the world is on its way to Africa and to countries like Uganda, where 86% of the population is Christian. So when the world does arrive in Uganda, what kind of Uganda should they see? What kind of Christian businesses should they see? Because they're going to come Chinese, Americans, Europeans, Japanese, from everywhere in the world, from Scandinavia. They all speak the language of business. Uganda is in such a strategic position to preach the gospel to all nations, because all nations are coming to Uganda, and to preach it using the word of business. And that is where AVODA has started. That is the vision with which we formed AVODA. But AVODA is not exactly new. Some of you may have heard before of African Business Institute, and that is the home ground of AVODA. We are a sister organization of African Business Institute, and the team in Uganda that ran African Business Institute, which shares the same passionate vision, has now shifted, as you say in Uganda, to start AVODA Group. Now, one last thing that I should mention about AVODA Group is that it was formed, it was founded during an unprecedented pandemic in the world that has affected every single person in the world. Every single person. Doesn't matter your age, your gender, your walk of life, it has affected everybody. And this is the thing, it has changed entrepreneurship forever. The game has changed. And it is upon this acknowledgement and this knowledge that AVODA was built. Therefore, AVODA is built to serve Christian entrepreneurs in the post-COVID world. And I would love to know more of you and your dreams before and even after COVID, and be able to help you to pursue these dreams in the new world that we are all facing. It is a world where grants and investments are decreasing. Let's be realistic. It is decreasing. It's going to be harder and harder to find grants. Why? Well, we haven't felt it yet, but the reality is that most countries that provide overseas development aid or foreign direct investment, they have not adjusted their annual budgets yet, but they have done so this year. And so we're going to see that effect. America, the UK, and their grants and their foreign investments drop next year. And so we haven't seen yet in the business world, we have not yet seen the end of COVID, but AVODA is here to help you. AVODA is here to help the Christian entrepreneurs by realizing and helping them realize a future where entrepreneurship is not dependent on grants, but on contracts with the rest of the world. So I welcome you to this, this new era, this new world. I welcome you to this talk. Thank you so much for your time. And I am very honored to be able to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. James Magara, on the topic of becoming a responsible mentee. I'm sure that caught a lot of you by surprise. Most people want to be leaders. And so there are a lot of discussions about how to become a responsible mentor. But we're saying you want to be a responsible mentee. Are you teachable? Are you humble enough that when a good mentor comes along the way, that you are able to learn and benefit from that mentor? Today, as we stand at the threshold of a completely new world of post-COVID era, we all need good mentors. But to have a good mentor, you need to be a responsible mentee. So that's the topic that we have today. And I would like to introduce Dr. Magara. He is a very good friend of mine. He has been a very good friend of AVODA Group. And this is the thing. He is a man of so many different talents that it is absolutely astounding. The first time that I came across his name was when I bought his book called Positioning Africa for the 21st Century. Positioning Africa for the 21st Century. I bought his book in Japan, in Tokyo. So this is one man who has a very international reach. Not only that, he is on the chair or perhaps chairperson as well of many Christian organizations, such as Castle. He is also, and get this, he is also a dentist. So he has a trade that has allowed him to start some of the nicest and most modern dentist facilities in Kampala. Some of you may have been a patron before. It's called Jubilee Dental. And so he has shops and very well-trained staff in Wampewo Drive, in Kampala, in Tinda, in Tebe, and in many other areas. So he's an entrepreneur and business owner as well. So Dr. Magara, it's my honor to be able to introduce you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Jun. It's my honor to be part of your meeting this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So Dr. Magara, or can I just call you James like I usually do?
Please.
All right. So we have, thank you. So we have a lot of people in this call today. They're calling in from Mbarara, they're calling in from Gulu, from Lira, and all over the place to hear what it means to be a responsible mentee. And so I'd like to introduce, I'd like to interview you about that particular topic, especially given the fact that we now stand at a time in history around the world where people need good mentors and people need to be good mentees in order to attract and to convince good mentors to mentor them. So some of the first questions that I have for you is, number one, I have been mentored by you. I have seen a lot of people in your network who also say that they have been mentored by you. So you mentor a lot of people. So what does mentorship mean to you? And if I may also add, how do you think mentorship is different from being a parent or a teacher or being a boss in an organization?
Mm. Well, perhaps it would be, by the my internet at this time tends to be a bit unstable. So I hope we will not have any big issues. But I would want to
Very
perhaps
good.
just tell my story. I am, as June mentioned, I have a trade. I am a dentist. Now, being a dentist requires you to be trained, to be taught. So I went through dental school to learn the principles. But even more powerfully, being a good dentist from the past, doctors didn't go to school initially. They just served under another doctor. Same with lawyers. Same with dentists. The first dentists were actually barbers, to be interested. I'm a modern dentist. But the way you grew was to be under the wing of somebody else. So I had the privilege of being taught at a university, but even a greater privilege of being mentored in the trade. And that is working under the wing of an experienced dentist. And I can tell you, I probably learned more from that than from what I learned at school. And then, now the thing about this experience was that this person who mentored me, for those of you who may be wondering who it was actually Dr. Ken Chapman, who has been in Uganda. He's an American dentist who's been in Uganda for about 40 years now, just over 40 years. So in the early days, I spent time with him. Actually, at that time, he was not yet married. I would even spend holidays in his house. So he really shaped what I became as a dentist. But he was practicing in a context that was not a business context. So later on, when I began doing private practice, I realized that there are certain things that I hadn't learned. So doing dentistry as a business is something that I learned without proper mentoring. But doing dentistry as a profession, I was well mentored. So I have an experience of both, even in the field of dentistry. One where somebody took me under their wing and basically shaped me in terms of etiquette, in terms of protocols and things like that. And then the other being thrown out in the water and learning how to swim. And comparing the two experiences, I think being mentored definitely gives one a shorter learning curve and the opportunity to avoid a lot of mistakes that you would otherwise learn through the school of hard knocks, as it's said. I think that would be my opening statement, June. I'll let you carry the conversation by your questions. June, can you hear me? You're muted, June. You're muted.
I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. So, you're a parent as well, James. And do you think mentoring is very similar to that? And if so, what are some of the main differences from parenting?
I think parenting is a lot more intense, a lot more, with parenting, a lot of the initiative comes from the parent. Because the children are not asking to be parented, they're just there, So the parent takes the initiative in teaching, training, and so on. But in mentoring, it's the reverse. If you were to be a good mentee, the hunger has to be on your side. I find many people who want to be mentored, but they actually are looking for parenting because they expect that the mentor will do all the hard work of looking out for you and correcting you. No, in mentoring, the hunger is on the side of the mentee, and the mentee seeks out to a large extent. Yes, the mentor may have usually have a heart. A good mentor has a heart to develop other people, but equally important, if not more important, is the fact that the mentee has to be hungry. You probably have heard this saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I don't know who first made that statement, but it's really true that student has to be hungry. They have to be looking, they have to be searching. One time I had the privilege of hosting the late Miles Monroe and in Uganda here. We held a conference on the Jubilee Network where we invited him. And in some of the private conversations we had, he was telling us about his experiences because he mentored so many people around the world. But there's something he said which stuck with me. He said, look, if I have a situation where somebody comes, I'm in a country and somebody who is my mentee or who comes to join me for either speaking engagement or something I'm doing, if they're talking all the time, they don't get the best out of me. I just sit and listen. But if they're asking questions, if they're listening, then they draw out from me, even things that I was not planning to say. So a mentee has to be hungry. And I think that's one of the major differences I see between parenting and being and mentoring.
Yeah. And that's an amazingly relevant segue to the next question, and actually to the main topic, right? You have to be a good mentee in order for the mentorship to work. Even if you have a great mentor, if you're not a good mentee, it doesn't work. Yeah. Thank you. The next question is perhaps relevant and very, very present in everybody's minds in this call. And that is, we are now headed into unprecedented territory. Nobody has been in the post-COVID world before. And, to me, that's scary. That is very scary for me as an organizational leader. And for all of us, we tend to look for mentors who have, gone before us, people who have experienced what we're about to experience before us. And so we think that they have the experience and wisdom to guide us. But we're heading into completely unknown territory. So how do we find a good mentor? As a mentee, how do we find mentors necessary in this new world?
That's a very good question. I remember last year when we began looking at the prospects of lockdown, I told my staff that something is happening. I think it's going to affect us. They thought I was being scaremongering. I kept updating them, especially as a dentist who work in the front line, the very front line where the virus lives. So I was telling them, I do not know how this is going to affect our business. I don't know the future, but it's definitely going to affect us. So now when the lockdown became a reality, many of them suddenly woke up. And it's an area I'd never been before. All of a sudden now I was thinking about, what's the future? Will we ever practice dentistry again? And I remember spending lots of nights just wondering, what does this mean exactly? That I think cuts across is the issue of character and maturity, because there are some values that carry you through territory you've never been before. And this is where, somebody can be very experienced, can be very good at their trade, but if they don't have experience in going through different types of hardships, they are not well equipped to go through the storms. We were able to ride through this storm, and at some points we're actually going from week to week. We don't know, what are we doing next week? What will we do tomorrow? That's what it boiled down to. But I also saw that times of adversity strain you. They bring out, this is when you begin to see the true character of people. And to see who can take risks. I remember the first time when we locked down, there's a lot of fear. And then we decided, okay, we're going to open. We'll open slowly. I could not send people there. I had to be there. I had to be the very first person to step out there. And it's only as people saw me working that they began to build confidence. I told the dentist, and they're like, this is entirely up to you. There's a lot unknown about this virus. But I felt a certain comfort level to step out. Now, this is where I saw my character and the values I stand for and the willingness to take a risk being stretched to the limit. So even in times like this, I think the question of character comes in beyond just skill. And in choosing a mentor, I would look for somebody who has tested the times. Sometimes time alone is enough, because in time, a lot of different things unfold. But other times, it is knowing the experiences that they've gone through adversity. Because in times like this, it is that character that actually becomes the bedrock on which everything else works.
Thank you, James. One last question before the break, and that is, with someone as accomplished as you, some of us may be surprised if you tell us that you also probably have a mentor. He may be around, or he may have already gone to glory. I don't know, but if you were us and you were looking for a mentor right now, as we stand at the threshold of a new world, an unprecedented world, what character would you look for in your mentor? Let's say you don't have one right now, and you're looking for a new mentor to help you as a Christian, as a father, as a dentist, to go into the new world. What kind of character traits, what kind of experience, what kind of qualities would you be looking for?
Well, I mean, I presume we already assume they're good at what they do, because if you're looking for a mentor in a certain field, you need to get somebody good in what they do. That's a given. Now, it is said if you're looking for an employee, you look for three things. You look for character, number one. You look for chemistry, and then you look for competence. So now you kind of can flip that, the other side as well. Now, I know you're asking for one of them. They should be competent. The chemistry means that you can get along, because someone could be good, but you just cannot get along, Now, down to character. There are things that are fairly common. I don't know how much I could stretch this, but if you look at the summary of the word, or the description, I like the description of of love, which is found in 1 Corinthians 13, breaks it down. The ability to be patient under difficulty, the attributes of kindness, the attributes of we can talk about kindness, long-suffering, self-control. All those things become to play. So if it's a very good list, I'll refer anyone to 1 Corinthians 13. It describes the bedrock of the kind of character qualities that we should be looking for. Now, you may not be able to see all of them, but by the time you are in a position enough to ask someone to be a mentor, you should have seen them in a few different situations. If you have somebody, for example, who gets angry easily, yes, you can learn. If he becomes your mentor, just know that you have to have shock absorbers against that, because at certain points it may blaze out at you, and you need to expect that. But if somebody already has those qualities, then they're in a very, very good position for the other part, the other things as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, James. So here we are at AVODA. We are all seeking mentorship, and we have a whole room right now of mentees looking for good mentorship. James, thank you so much for this first half. We're going to come back after the break. We've just discussed how to find a good mentor, as a mentee. But the second half is even more important, ladies and gentlemen, because we're going to be talking about how then would you become a good mentee to attract a mentor like Dr. James Magara, for example. So stick with us during the break.